Well, hi, everyone. I'm Carl Reuter, and welcome to the Stony Brook Sports Report. So happy to have the football coach joining us, Chuck Priore. And Chuck, even though it's spring, that means football in college. And your spring season is right around the corner. Ready to gear up and get it going?
Yeah, it's an exciting time. You know, you go through the winter, you go through the bad weather, you go through, you know, the kids preparing, and they get the itch to get back on the field and actually play the game that they work so hard for in the offseason.
What translates from the end of the season, basically Thanksgiving time, until where we are right now in the spring? What does you as a staff get ready to do?
Yeah, I mean, as a staff, we're trying to really evaluate what were the concerns from last year, what are our program goals to set forth, and we're trying to build that character in the winter time. And then, you know, when we get on the field, we try to take care of the X's and O's part of the game, as well as trying to build depth, see what kids are going to be able to work themselves into a rotation. You do some switching of positions sometimes to get an idea if kids would be better suited at other positions. At the end of the day, it's about getting a little bit better.
All right, 2009 recruiting class, you bring in 27 guys. What holes were you looking to fill, and were you able to fill those holes?
Yeah, you know, since I've been here, this is the best overall group of kids we've been able to bring in. We had a lot of scholarships available because of our transition to the 63 limit, and also because we graduated a large class, and a lot of them left in January. So we were able to bring in 7 mid-year kids that are with us in January, specifically 2 offensive linemen that hopefully will help us immediately. We graduated the left side of our line, and you know, we've got Brian Crew, who's a junior college kid out from Northern California, who we think can come in, and after seeing things he's done, we think we're pretty right on that one. We brought in a quarterback, once again, who's got 3 years left, who was a transfer via Syracuse. Who's got a lot of exciting things that he can do on the field to add some competition to that position with Dane and to the other guys in the program. We were able to fill some other holes at wide receiver, which we graduated our top 2 wide receivers. Cameron Hall, who's a 6'4.5" wide receiver out from California. So we did some of that through the transfer routes. Through the freshmen, we tried to build our depth. You know, positionally, we needed some depth in the secondary. We were able to get a couple of kids from California. Once again, you'll hear that be probably a specific statement. California's been great to us. I think we signed 12 kids to date from the state of California.
Overall, very happy with who you brought in and the positions that you filled?
Yeah, you know, absolutely. You know, you've got to really, you know, evaluate who you are, what you can get, and you got to fit them into who you are. And I think we got quality kids who are good students who want to be here, who we think have the potential to help us be successful.
You know, because you have the increase in scholarships that you talked about, that allows you to perhaps redshirt more guys. Does that help the program in the long run?
Yeah, we took 3 offensive linemen as freshmen knowing we were going to redshirt them. So we were able to take a kid that's 6'8". We were able to take a kid that was 6'6", who might not on high school film be ready to play in the next 18 months. But it wasn't important to us because we were able to have now the scholarships in the program and the kids coming in. And we did the same thing on the defensive side of the ball and the defensive line. Positions where kids need development, need the weight room. Too many of our kids have had to play from day one since they've gotten here. And but now the reality is that we can redshirt them.
You know, if you look into your crystal ball, do you see any one of the new guys coming in that will see action, making an immediate impact on this team, whether it be offensively or defensively?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a freshman wide receiver, Miles Campbell from California, who, in my opinion, is the best recruit we've brought in since we've been here from a freshman perspective, talent-wise. And so we're excited about him. I think the offensive lineman that I already mentioned, Brian Cruz, a kid that I think could come in immediately. We have a tight end, a 6'4" tight end from Northern California coming in that we were excited about. And we have a defensive lineman from Jersey, Julio Geronimo, who's a 6'2.5", 290-pound kid that I think could come in right away and help us contribute.
Well, that's a real good thing. Now, in the spring season, main concerns, what has to happen, you know, from your standpoint, you know, viewing this to be successful now?
You know, you got to be careful how you critique yourself. And I think, you know, you can say, you know, why you were successful, why you weren't successful. I think, you know, when we sat down and evaluated our entire program, and that meant everything, we came out with the one thing was consistency. We let up way too many big plays on the field, whether it be offensively and defensively. And we didn't have kids reach their potential. And so that's been our bigger trigger point as we move forward. You know, we're going to fundamentally change some things on the defensive side of the ball to help us better defend who our opposition is. We've we had some coaches leave, which are always good things and bad things. They were great guys. They've had some better opportunities and or different career situations. We were able to add a guy to our defensive staff who has 28 years of experience, a guy named Jim Gush, who will come in and coordinate our defense as the assistant head coach of the defense. He's been at Kansas State, been at SMU. His son's a redshirt freshman for us, so it was a good connection for us. And, we're going to be able to, I think, build and move towards the goals we need to.
That's part of the job of having a coaching staff, isn't it? Knowing that you have good guys, and when other schools look and say, you know what, they finger that guy and they bring him in, they say, you know what, he's done a good job there, and he moves up to another level or wherever it might be. So that's really a credit to what you brought in here prior to, these guys leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you've got to take that with, as a head coach, it's like a player graduating. They're going to graduate. A coach is going to graduate and move forward. And I think you got to be able to turn the page and look at how the next person can help you build your program.
Off the field, players in the community, visiting children in hospitals suffering from cancer, participate in National Girls and Women's Sports Day. Talk about the importance of the players that you bring in, whether they've been here or they're coming in, getting involved in the community and giving of their time.
Yeah, it's a huge emphasis for me and for our program. And I think it lends to the fact where sometimes we're a little greedy with our time and what we get. And I think one of the things we found out as a program after last year is we've got to make ourselves understand the value of who we are and how we can help. And that's not only institutionally, that's externally. And being able to give our time and being able to make somebody else happy on a regular basis is real important. And it makes kids understand how lucky they are to have what they have. So when you get into sometimes those selfish times where you're not getting the ball thrown to you enough, or you're not a starter in your backup, you really realize how important life is as opposed to those little things.
When you recruit a young man coming out of high school, whether it be a transfer from a JUCO or another school, is this something that you talk about? We play football. You're going to go to class and be the student that you are here at Stony Brook, but you also need to get involved in the community. That's part of being a football player here at Stony Brook.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always ask a kid, do you love football or like football? They say love football. I said, do you love school or like school? They'll never say they love school. So, and then you talk about that on the other opportunities of building, and they'll always say, yeah, I want to be involved, but they never say they'd love to be involved. And what I tell them is I'm going to get you to respect academics. I'm going to get you to respect your time with other people, just like you love football. And that's what we're really trying to build, is try to build a total person.
Speaking about people, Jim Tressel, who I've covered some of his games, and I think he's just a wonderful guy, let alone a wonderful coach, now at Ohio State. Remember his days, all those years at 1AA at Youngstown. But he came in here and spoke on campus to a number of your players. What do you think that they learned from a guy like Jim Tressel, coaching as big as you possibly can, Ohio State?
Well, some of the messages Coach spoke about in his talk were about, people that he's been around and how you have to be regular. You can't think you're better than somebody else. And, he's a very regular person. As his presentation had, as you see what you see on the sidelines, I know somebody that personally works for him who said it's, he's been in a lot of places, the best person he's ever worked for, and it's the best place he's ever worked at. And that's because of Coach Tressel. So, and I think our guys, when they walked out of it, I think they just said, hey, you know what? It's not much different at Stony Brook as at Ohio State. And that was probably his biggest message that they heard.
What can you learn as a coach who's been in the game for so long? What can Chuck Priore take away from a Jim Tressel coming here and speaking to you and your group of players?
Yeah, I think, the game of life is learning all the time, and it's taking each page every day. And I think, just listening to Coach's approach to how he handles the marquee player, something that I, was able to get out. We have Ed Gowans, who is a marquee player in our program, and certainly when you get National Freshman of the Year Sporting News, there's ways of being able to handle that person. And so, that was something that, you hear him speak about the important people that he's had and what they did in their life. They got the linebacker that's going to get drafted this year. His name escapes me, but talking about the community service that kid does on campus and how unselfish he is with his time, and yet he's got the opportunity to be an NFL football player. And, Eddie Gowans was sitting in the room, and I looked at him. I said, you got to make sure you are who you are, and you are who you are.
Go back to Gowans and talk about getting the National Player of the Year by the Sporting News. I mean, not only from a personal standpoint for Ed, but what about the name that even encompasses now with Stony Brook? Because you put Gowans and Stony Brook, and wow, national attention right away. What does that say?
Yeah, I mean,
it speaks volumes, doesn't it?
No question. And I think, we're lucky to have Eddie here. Eddie's lucky to have Stony Brook, I think. And I think he views it that way, and we view it that way. That award is a team award at the end of the day, but certainly Eddie's talents was showcased on the field. You know, what it's going to do for us is, when we go out and recruit, we have the opportunity to sell that we can be successful out there in the market that, other people are, the All-American status kids. We haven't had a lot of those type of players, the NFL potential players. And, it really allows us to recruit. And that's what it's all about.
I was going to say, that has to make it easier to recruit. I mean, everybody wants to come in. It's a great academic institution. You've built a great program. But now you have the National Player of the Year.
Yeah, unless it was a freshman running back.
Yeah.
Freshman running back didn't want to come.
So now they want to come. I mean, it might fit them. So that's got to, again, speaks volumes for what you've done here at the school.
Yeah, and, I think we've gotten ourselves to the level where we deserve that award. And I think, when you look at it, what Eddie and Conti did this year, there's two programs in college football that had two 1,000-yard backs. Oklahoma was one of them, and Stony Brook was the other one. So not a bad thing.
Wow, Oklahoma and Stony Brook in the same breath. That's pretty good. And Jim Tressel here on campus. Chuck Priore, I know you're jacked up and ready to go and get spring football started and see what you have on the field for the fall. And thanks so much for coming in, as always.
Appreciate it.
All right, that's Chuck Priore, the head football coach here at Stony Brook University. He's been my guest. That'll wrap up this edition of the Stony Brook Sports Report. We'll see you all again next time.